You're watching Teng Tools Muscle Garage, the home of New Zealand's toughest muscle cars, hot rods and street machines. Muscle Garage is proudly brought to you by Teng Tools in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Coming up, the big one. We hit Whangamata for Repco Beach Hop 19 and we gate crash Rotorua's one-stop speed shop, the Toy Shed. But thanks to Niedercar, we're kicking things off with one very slick Pontiac Catalina drop top, a long-term build pieced together by Lloyd and the team at Magoo's Street Rods.
The Pontiac project originally came about with a phone call from a guy saying he'd seen a car in America and was keen to import it and have it rebuilt, and did we do project management, and I explained that was the whole concept of how we run the workshop. So from that point the relationship was established. We had the car assessed in America, then had it transported, shipped out, and we've handled the whole process from literally from purchase through to registration, completion and delivery. This will be the longest build that we've ever done. It was well over 10 years in the build, and that was really by the owner's request. It's been a bit of a hobby for him, and whilst he's absolutely passionate about the car, he's never been in a rush to have it done, and obviously, like with everyone, it's had to work in with budget as well.
Good things take time, it would seem. Growing up, owner Martin was no stranger to American cars. His dad piloted a 352-powered custom line, and his uncle a 64 Pontiac. But it was many moons later and an act as simple as the purchase of a Hot Wheels toy car that would set the ball rolling on the build of this, the full-scale version. After many hours trawling through American classifieds, Martin found a car he was looking for. Or so he thought. Despite commissioning an independent inspection, the Catalina would arrive in New Zealand flagged as damaged.
It was a typical East Coast car. We thought, having been a convertible, it may not have been used on the salt roads over on the East Coast, but in fact it had been. So it necessitated a total strip down, and it's been a chassis up rebuild on the car.
While technically the Catalina does retain much of what it left Pontiac's Kansas City plant with, you won't need your rocket science degree to determine that the big GM convertible is rather enhanced. Yes, that's the factory 389 cube small block sitting there, but it's been lightly warmed over and not so lightly detailed. What doesn't need to be seen now isn't. Something that can be said for that smoothed out engine bay. Heck, it's something that could be said for the entire car.
He gave us pretty much a free hand in the design of the car, so we were involved in that. I mean, obviously he was included in picking colours and that sort of thing, but the general concept for how to build the car sat with us. So for example, the cleaned out engine bay, that was our idea, which we pitched to him, and same with the upholstery design. And the Pontiac had always been a favourite of his, so what he wanted was a car that was basically stock but that stood out as being different. It's almost like a contemporary street machine. I mean, it's certainly not a muscle car, although I think it's a great example of the styling that went on in the mid-60s. I mean, the Pontiac was unique because of the Coke bottle style grille. With the paint and what have you, we've tried to highlight the styling effects of the car without actually modifying the body at all, other than internally with the likes of the engine bay.
Where things first clearly deviate from factory is the suspension. Given the long-term build, it's a fairly early ride-tech airbag setup that drops the big poncho over the staggered billet specialties rolling stock. Magoo's son Nathan, aka Von Marco, gets the credit for the custom redesign of the factory's interior, a key feature of any drop-top car.
I think to me one of the most important things, whether we're building a 32 Ford or a 66 Pontiac or whatever, is the stance of the car. It's got to be a little bit different. I mean, all those cars originally were built, probably to be fair, to be a bit more practical for daily runners for people. But a hot rod or a street machine, the stance is the first thing that people notice. That's highlighted by the colours and the wheels that you pick to get the overall look. That's your first impressions. And then you flow from there into what's in the interior, and of course when people open the hood to see what's under there. But most of the time people don't see what's under the hood. So that initial look, does it grab you when you very first see the car? Does it jump out? In a sea of other cars, does it stand out and make a statement? To me, those little details, the things that people can look at a car and then come back and look at it again and suddenly notice, oops, that's a little bit different to the last one I saw, they're critical with building a car, and that's what makes the difference. I mean, there's hundreds or thousands of hot rods and street machines out in New Zealand, but what sets them apart is that detail and just the attention to the little things. And as I say, many of those things will just go unnoticed initially, but it's a compilation of all those little details added together that makes the difference on the end product.
With the Catalina now at the conclusion of its 18-year slow burn build and nothing left to do but put miles on the odometer and smiles on the owner, it's safe to say the Magoo Street Rods team have found themselves pretty attached to the old girl. But the biggest reward is seeing a long-term dream finally realised.
What we're trying to do, you could say that we're building cars as our core business, but in reality I think it's bigger than that. And in the instance of this car, for example, from his father and his uncle having cars when he was just young, through to buying a Hot Wheels Pontiac, this is making his dream come true.
Right, thanks to our mates at Mount Shop, we're in Rotorua, Vegas to drop in on Russell Lowe and the team from one-stop speed shop, The Toy Shed.
The toy shed is where we pay all people's toys, basically. Big boys' toys rather than kids' toys. We're doing this because we want to do it, not because we have to do it. This started off as I'm going to retire and just shag around and do a few of my own projects, which slowly evolved into what it is now. But we enjoy what we're doing, and that's what it's really about. We pretty much do anything. It's just our time and people's money, basically, then we can achieve whatever they want within reason. We build engines, do panel beating, got the dyno, build chassis, do a lot of certification and registration type work and those sorts of things, complying cars, and yeah, just the normal thing basically, which is everything and anything more or less. All sorts of weird and wonderful things turn up from all over the country, but that's good. You don't want to be doing the same thing every day. We don't want to be fixing Japanese cars and those sorts of things. Old stuff is where it's at.
The variety doesn't just keep life interesting at the Toy Shed. It's sometimes overlooked, but that individuality is the backbone of the hobby.
Well, it is part of hot rodding because you've sort of got to think outside the square a little bit and build things a little bit different. It's way more entertaining. Like my old Model A rat rod type thing, you put it next to a really shiny one, the people are more interested in that one because it's got character, and character is what a vehicle should be about. It should have your character in the vehicle rather than just being something super shiny and the same as the man next door's.
Russell's own vehicle's a testament to this view. He's campaigned a Camaro in the top door slammer class for years, but that's just been sold, making way for another Chev. Not nearly as fast, but with plenty of that all-important character. Even the way it approaches a quarter mile is a bit, unique. And as far as Model A's with a point of difference go, hey, we're just getting started.
Oh, I'd had the idea for a long time, and I'd been sniffing around for a motor for a few years, and a brother-in-law in Australia we actually worked with the Centurion tanks over there. So he was keeping an eye out because there's a lot of them floating around. He found it at a swap meet for me. And it was cheap, so I bought it and got it sent over, and I bought the body quite a few years ago, and the chassis sort of appeared a few years ago as well. So it's just been in time of getting everything to come together, the step-up drive and bits and pieces. Now we've got all the parts, we can actually start moving forward the project, and it's just because we can. It's pretty much why we've done it. It's been great fun starting up for our open days, and when we have do's here and whatnot, we've actually had it on the back of a ute and taken it to our club's 50th and start up in the middle of the night with big flames coming out. And it's all about the entertainment factor, really, of that car. We're not building it to go particularly fast. We're building it to put on a show and do skids and have a laugh, really.
At the much more refined end of Toy Shed builds is this Chevy truck. The shakedown is complete and the pickup is one cert plate off heading the streets.
Yeah, it came in basically bog standard on hubcap still. It had a 350 put in America, an American style fitting. It was held in with chewing gum and sticking plaster basically. He asked us to put an independent front and a four-link rear that came with it. So we sort of did that, but then as usually happens, the job sort of evolved, and it ended up a whole lot different to where it started. But it's a really neat project because the outcome has been awesome, and it's turned out a whole lot better than what his original plan was. It's cost a bit more money, but he's over the moon. He's smiling, because he's got what he wanted, and it drives nice and it does everything it's supposed to do. And quite neat to take it from something that was bog standard to what it is now. That's sort of a good sense of achievement, I guess.
And at this workshop, while each vehicle looks very different to the one parked next to it, when you do look a bit closer, there are a few common themes going on.
The stance of the car, it's got to have the right wheels and have the right stance so it looks right from the outside. The right noise is important. There's no good having a nice V8 if it doesn't make a noise. And drive nicely too. Getting things to actually work together so you get the result you're after is that's part of the trick too, I think. Horsepower's a good thing.
Our visit to the bustling Rotorua speed shop was on a Friday. Believe it or not, that's a quiet day around here. Apparently, there's always room for one more. Finding another mechanic with that old school know-how is top of Russell's list. It'd certainly be an office with a view.
To do this type of work, you need to do it because you want to do it. It's not a job. You're not coming to work to get paid. You're coming to work because you want to do the jobs we're doing, and you get a sense of achievement out of it at the end of the day, and you get to do some pretty cool work, and build some neat cars for people, and see the smile on the customer's face too when it's finished. Yeah, it makes you feel good when you see it burn down the road.
Amazing results, even at full sight.
You're back with Teng Tools Muscle Garage, proudly brought to you by Teng Tools, in association with Mount Shop, Maguire's and Niedercar. Okay, thanks to the crew at Maguire's, we're whanga bound for the big one, Repco Beach Hop. We cover a lot of events here on Teng Tools Muscle Garage, but if there's one that needs no introduction, this is it, Repco Beach Hop. Just to help everyone keep count, 2019's festival was also its 19th time round, and in the best part of those 2 decades, it's grown into a bit of a monster, with over 1,200 registered vehicles in attendance and hordes of spectators into 6 figures. For Beach Hop Week, this usually sleepy seaside town becomes standing room only.
Repco Beach Hop is a celebration of the 50s and 60s. So what we do is we wind the clock back to what New Zealand and our society was like back in those 2 golden decades. The things that you'd see, the cars, the fashion, the music, the bikes, the dance scene, just that whole vibe. Yeah, it's a 5-day celebration, so much to see and do. No matter what part of it you're into, you can see it all and just soak it all up.
It's just fantastic. If you like old cars, this is what it's all about.
There can't be many like this, and a lot of other shows that just simply park up for a few days in one place inside somewhere and keep their cars nice and clean and not getting rained on, whereas here...
Roasters, whatever, things with no roofs, everyone's out there enjoying it, having a laugh and loving it.
I don't know if the wider community of New Zealand understand how big this is and what kind of returns it puts back into the economy here. I mean, it is just truly enormous, and it does blow a lot of people away.
It's a bit like art. Cars are an expression of what you like. And this is for people to get their cars out there, drive them, whether they be street machine or hot rod, and show it to the world.
But the Hop isn't technically a car show. It's a rock and roll festival, the biggest one in the Southern Hemisphere no less, although try telling this lot that. While the cars were a sideline act in the Hop's early days, It's fair to say they've since emphatically staked their claim, and in 2019, much of the festival's 5-day program is dedicated to driving your way around the Coromandel Peninsula, with day trips to Waihi, Whitianga and Onamana, before settling in at Festival HQ Whangamata for the big weekend. Forget the beach town's famous New Year's festivities, this makes that look like a school fair. The name of the game is Pre-72, and representing New Zealand's unique auto landscape, it's not all about the yank tanks either, with Aussie Iron and the occasional British-built car in attendance. And they were put to work no matter what Mother Nature decided to throw at them.
That's sweet. It's a 73 Falcon XB coupe, built in November, so it's the first of the XBs. So it gets the power steering and the disc brakes and the nice little extras the XA didn't have, which made it a prick. Yeah, it's just that shape, from a kid, really, 6 years old watching Bathurst, really. It was, it was in the head and that was it. I didn't want to build a show car. I just wanted a car that looked tough. So I wanted the hardware to be the showy bit. I didn't want to have a car that I needed to polish every day and to give it a bit of a Pro Tourer look without going modern, So, yeah, I I think I've done it.
64 Chev Malibu. Brought it as a bit of a project car out of the States. It was in a bit of a sorry state, although it was out in the desert, so good dry car to start with. We came up with a bit of a theme for it because what kid doesn't like Hot Wheels? I originally was going to put a big block Chevy in it, and but then I sort of erred on the other side and decided I'd go to LSX. Chassis all boxed and it's sort of been a frame off sort of a job, so it sort of became a bit of one of those jobs where you start off thinking, oh yeah, we'll just do a quick run through and do this and do that, and then all of a sudden it just blows out of all proportion and it gets out of control. So yeah, but we've got it here and only just in the nick of time.
The Hop has always sported its share of overseas visitors keen to see what the fuss is all about. This year, expat Kiwi Royden Hardcastle even brought his family. Oh, and a Dodge over from Oz. But as far as homegrown attendees went, Blair's Queenstown to Whanga round trip was an impressive effort.
So it's a 38 Chevy coupe. I think the model name's a Master Deluxe. It was the businessman's coupe. I bought it in stock 2 years ago. I had a plan and a time frame and a budget in terms of the suspension and the sheet metal and whatnot. I knew I wanted a reasonably unique motor, and I got my hands on a Oldsmobile 324, 6 Holly 94s, which have been an intelligence test. Heights IFS in the front, which I only got because it was pre-approved, just to sort of save a bit of drama. Gambino back end, 4-link notch, and an Explorer rear end, so it's posi and disc brakes, 4-wheel discs now. Yeah, so it was just sort of a matter of doing the chassis and then getting the body away for paint and sort of finishing work and screwing it all together. And then driving it, which I haven't done a lot of until I came up here.
And he hasn't been doing a whole lot of it since either. The coupe was for sale at the Hop and has now made its home in a new garage. Unfortunately, not mine. While Repco Beach Hop plays nice and shares this giant rolling party with the rest of the Coromandel in its first 3 days, come Saturday, all eyes are firmly fixed on Whangamata. But there's no sitting still round here. The Grand Parade is something else. The carefully orchestrated Port Road procession makes for the best traffic jam you've ever seen. When it finally grinds to a halt, it transforms downtown Whangamata into the enormous Maguire's Main Street car show. Enormous, you say? Well, yes. And you'd think after a day the scale of this one, everyone would happily file home to pop their feet up with a nice cup of cocoa. And you'd be very wrong. The official program might be done and dusted, well, the driving part anyway, but with bands setting up shop in storefronts and marquees, the Hop wasn't about to go quietly into the night. Not even persistent rain could slow the pace, the main drag well worn into the early hours. Sunday is the festival's most relaxed day, and that's almost a relief. While the Hop isn't a judged car show, it does culminate in a top 10. The lineup of cars, bikes and caravans the result of people's choice voting. And if you've been tuned into Teng Tools Muscle Garage this season, a couple of these will look very familiar. We've featured Tash and Todd Collins' Retrotech 55 Chev Nomad and Lyle and Lucy Stewart's candy-coated 32 Coupe earlier this season. And if you missed those, your best bet is to head to themotorhood.com to catch up. Both are standout cars in their own right, and they were joined in the top 5 by Ted Williams' 4-banger 27 Speedster and Nigel and Anna Clothier's recent acquisition, this 32 Tudor originally built by Rods by Reed. But they'd all play runner-up to a car that had the crowd 3 deep around it all week. From Wellington, Dave Murtagh and his 64 Ford Galaxy. The big coupe, a recent import from Australia and the second consecutive 64 Galaxy to take the Hop crown.
So it's got a 557 big block Ford in it. It was originally a 460 which has been stroked out to the 557. You know, you've got to take your hat off to Pat and the guys that built it. They've got some pretty amazing cars that they have built over in Australia. Very lucky to have one of his works of art, to be honest. For me personally, I just come here, brush out the old sand or whatever it is, open it up, set it up, and I'm out of here. I'm not a look at me. It's just, that's the car. I purchased it, I enjoy it, I love it for what it is. Let everyone else enjoy it as well if it's their cup of tea.
Like what you see? Well, be sure to pick up a copy of NZV8's Beach Hop Annual for full coverage of the event. Repco Beach Hop will be back next year, and it's gonna be a big one, number 20. So you can bet Noddy and the crew will be cooking up something pretty special. Want to win big? Prizes don't get much bigger than this one. A massive Teng Tools 417-piece toolkit, 7-drawer cabinet and 6-drawer top box, a complete Maguire's car care pack and a $500 Mount Shop voucher. What do you need to do to be in to win? Simply head to themotorhood.com and hit the Teng Tools Muscle Garage link. Easy. Teng Tools Muscle Garage was proudly brought to you by Teng Tools. Get organised. Mount Shop, undercar specialists. Maguire's, people who love cars love Maguire's. And Need a Car, the easy way to research and buy cars online.